Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today I want to go over a new build for Bear that I've been having a lot of fun with. I'm not going to promise that this is the meta, because it is probably most definitely not. But is this a fun build that you can take for Bear into your weekly keys, or, just have fun with? I'm confident that this could do with, enough eye level, could pretty easily do a 20. I'm item level 390 right now, and I haven't even done a key since I hit 390. And I was doing 15s, and I was not having a problem with it, but there are some pros and cons to this build for what we're going to call the Raze build on this video. I will be posting a link or a code that you can import it if you want, but I'm going to go over the talents first, and then we're going to talk some rotation stuff with it and some of the pros and cons afterwards. So before we do get started though, please do like, comment, subscribe. It does go such a long way to helping out the channel. Thank you all for the support. There's a Patreon link down below. I have had this build up on Patreon with a breakdown of it for a couple of days now, as well as some early access content. I'm uploading another video that's not going to be out for another couple of days, maybe even a week, on there now. So lots of goodies for patrons. If that's something you wish to do, there, you can do that. There's a Discord link down below if you want to ask questions about this, talk to other tank enthusiasts, or just be around a wonderful group of people. And then there's also a Twitch link if you wish to support me directly. So getting right into the build right off the bat, the spec tree isn't what's, the class tree, sorry, isn't what's hugely important here. I like going for as much utility as possible, so I try and go the Boomkin side to get Typhoon and Ursol's Vortex. Both have been absolutely great in a lot of cases, and one of my new favorite things to do on Bear right now is to drop an Ursol's Vortex and group stop kick everything with a Typhoon, and everything's placed right back in front of me. It's really, really fun. It's a small thing, but you know what? It's the small things that make this game enjoyable. So we're not going to be going over the class tree as a whole. There's a lot of room for flexibility and kind of what you want to do here. So if there's something on the class tree that you don't see, that you don't like, or maybe you really want Heart of the Wild or anything, go for it. Class tree doesn't matter on this one. Now for the Raze build, it's all about this side over here. So what Raze is a new talent that replaces Maul, and what it does, strike with the might of the Ursoc, dealing X amount of damage. This was 11,000, so it's going to scale with eye level. Dealing X, so we're just going to use X. Dealing X amount of physical damage to all enemies in front of you, deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So this takes Maul, a purely single target ability, and makes it AoE Frontal Cone. This works very well with Tooth and Claw. Your auto attacks have a 20% chance to empower your next Maul, stacking up to 2 times. Empowered Maul, aka Raze, deals 40% increased damage and costs 100% less rage, and that's the kicker here, is free rage. You don't want to be spending rage on this build. You want to be spending rage on Iron Fur, so that way you can remain tanky, but you can also get lots of Thorns of Irons in. This is really the key here for kind of what you want to do, and what Thorns of Iron is a new ability, a new talent. When you cast Iron Fur, it also deals physical damage equal to 30% of your armor split among enemies within 12 yards. This allows you to use one of your active mitigations for basically free damage. So these are your two main abilities that you're going to be kind of working in and cycling through. One being purely passive by just hitting Iron Fur, which you should be doing anyway, and the other one using your Raze procs off of Tooth and Claw. Couple of key talents here that I found worked very, very well was Bristling Fur. Bristling Fur causing you to generate... You bristle your fur, causing you to generate rage based on your damage taken for 8 seconds on a 40-second cooldown. Now, this allows you to stack a lot of Iron Furs, which I was pretty easily getting without having to try too hard. For those 8 to 10 seconds, I was pretty easily getting 5 to 6 without having to actually pre-pool much rage or anything. Just kind of hit the button at the start of the pull, take the damage, and just stack those up really quickly, which was really, really nice. I did test out Brambles and some others, but I found Bristling Fur to be very, very good here. But also, you're gaining more rage to spend, So you're actually going to be able to get more Incarn. Because every 20 rage you spend reduces the cooldown of your Incarnation Guardian of Ursoc's Fury by 1 second. So the more rage you get, the more rage you spend, the more Incarns you get. And I found this flowed really, really nicely all with one another. For this build as well, I did take all of the Berserk talents because this rotation becomes a lot more fun with more haste. And I know, they reduce the cooldown of Mangle, Thrash, and Growl by 50% instead of 100% while in Incarn. But this allows you to not just... There are some people that loved just spamming Thrash. You hit Incarn, then you just spam Thrash. Life is good. This build is more Thrash, Raze, Thrash, Mangle, Thrash, Raze. And you kind of cycle through, giving you a lot more fun depending on the procs that you have. A couple key talents here as well that make this really, really work is Vicious Cycle. Mangle increases the damage of your next Maul and Raze, and Maul increases the damage of your next Mangle by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. So as you're cycling through this, your abilities are all empowering one another because we're really avoiding Moonfire and Galactic Guardian. This is not the Laser Bear build at all. Now, to say... Does that mean that you never want to use Moonfire? No. During Incarn, you're not going to really have the time, but when I'm pulling or when I have a second, when the free global kind of comes up, or I'm like, okay, what do I do now? That's just a quick Moonfire to kind of get everything back going, and you will gain some passive healing from there. As well, Soul of the Forest. Mangle generates more rage and deals 25% more damage. This is all about finding more ways to get free rage where you might not have had it before, because you really want to focus on stacking up those Iron Furs for Thorns of Iron. I don't know if this should be the Raze build or the physical build. Raze build sounds better, so that's what we'll call it. Now, there are some talent flexibility options here if you so choose. I did test Flashing Claws here. You could take away Pulverize, and you could take away Circle of Light and Death and put 2 points into Flashing Claws, giving you access to Ursoc's Fury. Now, right now, Ursoc's Fury is a 30% Absorb Shield. It's going back up to 50. I don't know why they ever nerfed it from 50 to 30 in the first place. This might make it that Flashing Claws becomes the go-to play when this gets buffed, but that's only on February 7th. We are the 2nd as of recording this, so I can't really tell you what's going to be the absolute play here, but I have found right now, when testing both, Pulverize has been absolutely great for tank busters on all tyrannical mobs and, well, bosses, and specific trash mobs and dungeons that just hit you like a truck. Having a 35% targeted DR for 7.5 seconds on a 45-second cooldown is really, really big, especially because right now, Bear doesn't deal with magic damage that well, right? Ursoc's Fury will work for that, but having something specifically targeted outside of Barkskin and Survival Instincts is just adding another tool to your kit that when I was playing with Pulverize, everything just felt a little bit more smooth. That could change, and if you don't want Pulverize, you can put your 2 points into Flashing Claws and be more than fine without a problem. Unfortunately here, we have to take Elun's Favored for the Moonfire healing. You deal more arcane damage than you're healed. Yeah, that's the Moonfire healing, because we want Rage of the Sleeper and we want Thorns of Iron. That's kind of all part of the build, right? Now, this was not my best key, I'm not going to lie. This was in a 13 Halls of Valor. This is just the most recent one that I have. I went into a 13 afterwards, after I had done a bunch. But you can see here, Raze, Mangle, Thrash. These are all your really big abilities, but also Thorns of Iron. So all of the top 5 abilities are all of your main physical stuff, right? I was using Moonfire here and there, and it did do 7% of my damage, which is good. Make swipe do something, like hashtag make swipe do something. I don't know what to do with this button. It's just a filler that feels bad to press. It needs to do something. But Thrash, Mangle, and Raze are going to be your top damages, especially in AoE. And this is where this really shines, is in AoE, where you might lose that Maul damage in from going from AoE to single target, Thorns of Iron more than makes up for it. And I was actually very surprised at how good my single target was, because I thought I was going to just not lose it, right? I thought I was just going to lose it. But Thorns of Iron more than made up with it, because the way this works, it is split among enemies within 12 yards. So if there's only one boss, there's no split. 30% of that damage just all gets cranked into the one boss. Which I was very surprised at how high Thorns of Irons was on my boss damage alone. But I had an absolute ton of fun going over this build. We tinkered with it on stream, and we did change some stuff around. We tried not taking Ursoc's Fury, tried taking Galactic Guardian. We really moved a lot of things around, but this is where we landed on stream, where things felt good and comfortable. Cons for this, and this is kind of this is more of a bear thing, because you don't have the streamlined incoming healing of Moonfire, Galactic Guardian, and Elun's Favored. You really need to time your defensives well. You need to be proactive with them. You need to know when the big hits are coming and use Pulverized Barkskin, Survival Instincts, and Rage of the Sleeper accordingly. And not doing so, or cycling your defensives in a negative way, in a bad way, doing it wrong, can really just put you behind on incoming damage. And it's not exactly fun when you fall behind and you're like, oh crap, I used this defensive at the wrong time, or things like that. And when you start playing like that, things can get out of hand real quick and put you in a bad position. So you really want to be using your Frenzied Regions in a good manner and not willy-nilly or just kind of as an oh crap button. You want them to be a little bit more planned. You have to trust your healer a little bit more as well. But you can you can mitigate a lot of damage by simply utilizing your defensives properly and doing so. So, for example, on Croth, on a 15 Algathar's Academy, there was a pull where I kind of just YOLO'd it. I wasn't thinking, I was talking with chat, things weren't going that great, and I just died, and I wasn't paying attention. Then I refocused my stuff, and was like, okay. And with every defensive timed, Rage of the Sleeper, Barkskin, SI, Survival Instincts, Incarn, Pulverize, I really wasn't taking anywhere near as much damage with that focus put in. But this is not just a build that you're going to be able to pick up and just crank through everything. Now, I am a little bit of a low item level for a 15 in comparison to some other tanks out there, or whatever have you not, because I'm not going to say that Bear is the best tank right now, because they're far from it. But this is a lot of fun. This is also getting buffed on February 7th, because they're buffing the amount of Iron for armor gain you get per stack by 20%. Well, if Thorns of Iron deals damage based on your current 30% of your current armor, a 20% buff to Iron Fur is a 20% buff to Thorns of Iron. So you're going to see this shoot up in damage. You're going to gain more survivability by Thrash and Maul. This is also including Raze with Ursoc's Fury, because Thrash and Raze are going to grant you that 50% of the Absorb shield for 15 seconds. That's going to be very, very pretty big. There is a buff coming to Reinforced Fur and Layered Mane. I will update this video. You guys have just been asking for it in Discord and on stream, and a lot of you are very excited for this. If this changes and Layered Mane and Reinforced Fur become the better play here, I'll update the video. I will. But right now, I just don't think the updates to those two talents are going to be worth taking talent points out of everything else here. So very, very difficult to kind of go around and say. Now here you might be asking, hey, why didn't you take After the Wildfire? After testing After the Wildfire for a bit of time, while the healing is great on the meters, it was 85% of it was also overhealing. So it's not proccing at the time. Like, when it procs at the right time and you get that nice big heal and or someone does and it saves them, that's great. But most of the time, it's going to someone that just doesn't need it, is just getting overhealed like crazy, and unfortunately just kind of when you have to choose your talent points with as much care as you do with Bear right now to be able to make something work, having something that is only effective 15% of the time for 15% of the time for the cost of a talent point makes things really difficult to take. But yeah, so with taking this with Vulnerable Flesh, Tooth and Claw, Vicious Cycle, Soul of the Forest, you're going to notice your Mangle damage is increased, your Raze damage is great in AoE, and for me, this actually made Incarn the funnest version I've seen it. I didn't play Bear with an Incarn that you didn't spam Thrash. I've never actually done that. So for me, it was always hit Incarn, spam Thrash. This made Incarn rotation so much more fun. What proc am I getting next? Is it Raze? Is it Mangle? Being able to spam Iron Furs like crazy and just seeing your damage go up. I'm item level 388, and during some a smaller double pull, I was hitting 100k, 110k damage, and I have dog shit trinkets. I have not optimized gear. If I can hit when I hit item level 410, 411, 415, this is going to crank and is going to be very, very good damage, but not just good damage, a ton of fun to play. Like I said, being able to rotate through Thrash, which I actually thought reducing this from 100 to 50 was going to be bad for the spec. I think it actually opens up more doors for the spec. So that is my Raze build here. Like I said, I'll be updating it if anything changes, but this to me has just been a lot of fun. I am planning on getting all of the portals on all of the tanks, and I do foresee myself getting all of my portals on Bear with this build. So that is it today. What do you guys think? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know down in the comment sections below. Are there any changes that you would make as well? Something I'm missing? Something that, something that could be done better? Swap talent points here, there. What would you think? I would love to hear that down in the comment section down below or in my Discord. Aside from that, have yourselves a good one, everyone, and happy tanking.